Thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Evan Rodenhausen, and I will be reading an excerpt from my book, Nighttime Collectors. The basic premise of this book is three teens go hiking in the woods one summer afternoon and come across a dead body. The body is missing its face. Things spiral from there. The police get involved, namely two characters, one Sheriff O'Donnell and the other Deputy Elliot Castillo, who becomes one of the central characters. And the kids find themselves continually sucked in to the mayhem as it unfolds, chief among them being a young girl named Theo. Bodies continue to pile up, all of them missing specific pieces, legs, arms, teeth, all that good stuff. And the town slowly becomes paralyzed in fear, almost going on lockdown as they wait for a mystery that can't be solved to unravel itself before them. The scene I'm going to be reading tonight by this lovely fire is a discussion between Deputy Elliot Castillo and the county's forensic dentist, whose name is Lee Hubbard. Lee was a victim of an attack, and the only one so far to survive. The only caveat being that he's had his eyes removed. Lee's in the hospital. Deputy Castillo has come to visit him and interview him. This is an excerpt from that conversation. The hallway was empty. Castillo rubbed his eyes and steeled himself for the conversation. He couldn't imagine ever having one like it before. He imagined he would never have one like it again. The room was dimly lit, a yellow lamp on a bedside table beyond the reach of Lee's arms. He was sitting up in bed, propped up by pillows, his hands folded across his lap. Two large pressure patches, their corners crossing at the top, were taped over his eye sockets. He was very still. "Who's there?" Castillo shut the door, walked towards the foot of the bed. "Just me. Officer Castillo." "Hi, Elliot," Lee said. His muscles relaxed, but his upright posture seemed very delicate. They were silent then. Castillo was hoping Lee would say anything, make a crack, say something like, "Well, I would say it's nice to see you, but I can't see anything." Anything to cut the tension, but he remained utterly quiet, unmoving. Castillo wondered what he would be thinking, what it was that could be going through his head, but nothing came to mind. "How can I ever work again?" Lee said. "They'll give you a pension, I promise you." "I don't care about the pension." Castillo nodded. "I know." There was a chair in the corner of the room, and he pulled it over to the left side of the bed by the window. He took a seat. They were in the PCU high up in the hospital building. The window looked out over the tops of countless trees, snaking roads, and empty green fields. The bottom half of the sun had dipped below the horizon, and what remained looking out over the landscape was red and smoldering and severe. The sky was a mingled shade of orange and purple, and hazy stars peered through the gloaming like the drowsy eyes of wakening beasts. "Yesterday," Lee said, "I told you I could take that molar back to Rollins' corpse and pop it right in. I could have done that. You could probably still do that right now. Probably for the last time," Lee said. Castillo sighed, bent forward, and ran a hand through his hair. He looked up at Lee, who was staring at the wall above Castillo's head. "How about that supersonic hearing? You get that yet?" "I'm not in the mood." "How's your mom? Was that her out in the hall?" Yeah, she's okay." "Okay then." They returned to their silence. Castillo knew why he had come here. Lee knew why he had come here. Neither believed that Castillo would leave before certain questions were asked and answers were provided. Still, they chipped around at the issue like sculptors with chisels and pitching tools, waiting for the point of all this pointless gesturing to emerge. Castillo asked him about the pain in his eyes, about what he saw, what he felt, what it was like. He could see it was grating on Lee then, so he stopped. He knotted his hands together and twiddled his thumbs. Outside, the dusk had deepened to night. The sun was gone from the sky, with only slender tendrils of orange light wavering along the horizon and then disappearing. What did you see? Castillo said then, still looking out the window. What was the last thing you saw? Lee took a deep breath. He shuddered all over. Some doll mask, he said. Castillo nodded, remembering Theo's description of the people she saw during her night in the woods. It was nonsense, Lee said. How's that? Absolute nonsense. I can't even think about it. I need you to, Castillo said. Lee opened his hands wide and held his palms up to his face. He turned them back and forth, touched the tips of his fingers to his cheeks. I want to scratch my eyes so bad, he said. I want to take the balls of my hands and rub them into my eyes until I see stars. Please, Lee. He put his hands down, curled them into a block, his knuckles between his lips. You know those apple doll faces? Kind of like that, but harder. I don't know, like it was porcelain maybe, but the faces and features were all sunken, old. How were they wearing masks? Over their heads? No. I don't know if they're masks. I don't know what you would call them. They were in their faces, if that makes sense. Joined with their skin. I could see their skin, and it seemed like the mask was stitched into it. Burned into it? Yeah, I saw dark edges. Like they were burnt. What color was the skin? Pale. White. What else? Lee paused, and then smiled. He began to laugh softly, his face turned towards the ceiling. You know, you'll never get this. I hope you never do, at least. First, the man came in. The man who gave that guy the tooth. I think it was him, at least. He didn't give me much of a description, but it seemed like it was him. Tall. Really tall, probably like 6'4", 6'5". Long coat that was strange and a hat, like a Stetson hat. He began laughing again. Face pointed towards the ceiling, still laughing. Castillo began to feel cold. He didn't like looking at Lee like this. He decided he would look out the window and stare at the trees and the sky and the stars as he spoke. Like he was a goddamn cowboy in Pennsylvania, Lee said, between fits of laughter. Oh, God. Strange. I couldn't see much of his face, but it was strong. Handsome in a beat-up way. But I'm laughing now. I'm laughing because of those fucking masked things. It was just the man in there, but they started to creep in then. Bit by bit, one by one. Some of them walked in. Only some of them, Castillo said. He was still staring out the window. Some of them crawled in. Some of them blundered in. I think they were all women or something like women. Long hair, bodies all thin and wasted. I can't be sure. Some of them crawled in because they didn't have any legs. Castillo blinked slowly, feeling the heaviness of his eyelids, feeling the beginning poundings of a pulsing headache. One of them only had arms, and it stayed upright and dragged itself in. Its knuckles were gnarled, cut up. Then it fell over on its stomach and started crawling. You know, like those snipers in the war movies? Another one had no arms. It kept losing its balance, tripping over itself. I can't believe this. I know, Lee said. His laugh came back. I know, right? Nuts. It's nuts. There they were, though. You wanted to know the last thing I saw, and that was it. Those freaks. What were they wearing? Big blue coveralls? Is that what they call them? Like the big bodysuits that mechanics or handymen wear. He must have slipped you something. He never touched me. Never came near me. Talked to me and turned off the lights. Talked to you? No, you know what? I didn't tell you the last thing I saw. You want to know the last thing I saw? The final last thing ever? Do you? Castillo was looking at Lee now. Part of him didn't want to know. He told himself it was because he didn't care, but that wasn't the truth. The truth was that in the course of this brief conversation, Things had expanded beyond anything he was capable of dealing with. Events had left the realm of plausibility and descended into madness, and to hear more, to know more, would be to give it credence, to justify it and think it true, to admit that what was going on was far beyond his capabilities. But another part of him, a stranger and deeper part of him, still wanted to know, wanted to crack open the door and peek in. That's my excerpt. Thank you for joining me this evening. Once again, my name is Evan Rodenhausen, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Much love.